Hey guys, so I came across a video called Why I'm No Longer Dating by a 36-year-old woman called Kate. I haven't watched the video yet. I will show you my comment though. To put it into context, I'm not really against women not dating. In fact, I think it's quite good. The comment I left on this was, "This is great. We need more women to become strong and independent. After the decades of talk, it's time to walk the walk. You go, Queen." So, contrary to what a lot of people believe, I'm actually all for a lot of particularly older women opting out of dating because I don't believe they actually bring value into the dating market. And I think that they actually cause more problems by still remaining in the dating market when they are well past their prime. And I'm not saying this out of hatred or misogyny. I'm saying it objectively. I think that women after a certain age should really just stop dating for long periods of time at least, because a lot of the time they just jump from relationship to relationship without any breaks in between and become mentally and emotionally completely unhinged. And I think it is in their best interests and in the best interests of men for them to just opt out, like a lot of men are doing these days as well. So anyways, let's get into the video.
The thought of having to take another person into consideration in a romantic sense, now as a 36-year-old woman, I'm done. So I wanted to share a little bit about why I'm no longer dating, how this all came about, because I would very much identify as like a relationship girly. Now, I'm not someone who's like always in a relationship. There was typically, like 1 to 2 years in between all of those relationships. So I did always take some time to be single, but yeah, I was like very much that girl. Like I loved being in a relationship. I loved having a partner. I really loved the idea of building a life with someone, building a family with someone. Those things all felt really important to me. And that was in November of 2023 that I basically decided very intentionally to delete the dating apps and that I was not going to be on them again.
I think every woman and every dude should just delete the dating apps because all it really does is serve Chad to bang dozens of women simultaneously, and all of the rest of the dudes are basically left with women well below their league. Dating apps are designed specifically to destroy the social fabric of our culture. It shouldn't take women until they're 36 years old to realize this. I realized these dating apps were completely ridiculous like 10 years ago and stopped using them then for the most part. Dating apps actually destroy women's brains. Women aren't meant to have access to dozens of men or hundreds of men that are out of their league, that they should have no business dealing with because they're so much better looking or wealthy or whatever, or more status. And the fact that they have so many options with guys that are outside of their league, even though it's just for a quick pump and dump usually, it scrambles their brains. Women aren't really meant to be the ones choosing the men. In nature, men would be the ones that approach women. So when women are given so much variety, so much choice, but their brains aren't wired to ever make a decision, it creates the hyperhoflation, mega hypergamy culture that we have today, where it's just basically women dating so far out of their league that it ruins them for long-term compatibility with men who are actually on their level. Their pair bonding is destroyed, and they no longer want to have relationships that are with men on their level because they're used to dating men outside their league. I'm not saying that's the case for this woman, but in general, that's what's happening.
How did that come about? I mean, I think really like it was a long time coming. I will say that I had the dissolution of a pretty important relationship happen at this point now over a year ago. I'm trying to think of the exact timeline, but it's been over a year. I thought obviously the loss of that relationship was difficult, but it also, the feelings were very mixed.
The feelings were very mixed. That sounds familiar to 99% of guys, I'm sure, where one hour you can do no wrong, and the next hour you can do no right, even though you're behaving in the exact same way. See, women's emotional instability in the past was balanced by the man having authority. When women started to act crazy and all that, women could step into their masculine, aggressive frame and yell some sense into them. But now that's basically considered abuse. Because it's considered abuse when men step into their masculine, aggressive frame, most men just placate the women. Yes, dear. Okay, sorry, dear. I'll change, dear. And it just compounds the problem because then the women start to think that, oh, you're a pushover or you're being fake. Women also, a lot of the time, because they've lost their identity, women's identity used to be tied to being a wife, being tied to being a mom. Now it's tied to pretending to be a man, which none of them really want to do. So in order to distract them from the fact that they're losing their identities, they have to create drama to distract them from reality. So drama basically sustains their delusion. Like if they start to spend too much time like thinking by themselves, contemplating their own behavior, they'll make up stories in their head. Like the biggest red flag you can have as a guy is to have no red flags. I tell you, if you are like a guy that treats women properly, you tick all of the boxes, that is the biggest red flag you can have for a woman, because she's forced to then self-reflect. She is the problem when problems arise in the relationship. She's held accountable, and that to them is the biggest ultimate red flag. It will trigger them something fierce, and they'll make up things in their head about you. And that's where they will get the mixed emotions from a lot of the time. It's pure insanity, guys, and this is why I support women opting out of dating.
The thought of having to take another person into consideration in a romantic sense just felt so loaded to me. And one of the reasons that I'm not dating anymore is that I've just become so attached to like my freedom and my life and basically being able to do whatever I want whenever I want. I don't want to have one more conversation with somebody about like what we're cooking for dinner that night. I don't want to have one more conversation with somebody about what time we're setting our alarms for in the morning. I don't want to have someone waking me up with their alarm in the morning or waking someone else up and worrying about waking them. Like,
I completely agree with what she is saying here. I think it's ridiculous how quickly most couples live together. And I think that living together isn't a prerequisite for a relationship. The thing is, if you tell women that you don't really ever want to live with a woman, then they're just going to see you as a fuckboy. Women don't even take relationships with men seriously, and then unless they're gaining something from it, which is usually living in the dude's house and not having to pay for the mortgage or accommodation, or at least, going 30% instead of 50-50. And then, same thing with the bill. So women really see living with a man as the prime objective of a relationship because of all of the free things that they get out of it. And it's usually the man in today's society which makes all of the compromises, does all the household chores, doesn't dare ask the woman to do any cooking or cleaning because he'll get castrated. So it's really ironic that the woman in this video is saying this as well, because, I see where she's coming from, but like at the end of the day, living with a woman is much more of a sacrifice for a man than the woman living with the man. But when you tell women that you don't want to live with them, they see it as, oh, you're not taking the relationship seriously. So it's a double-edged sword.
All of those little mundane day-to-day things that it is to build a life with someone and have a partnership, those things are necessary, of course. But to me, they just feel so overwhelming, overstimulating, and quite frankly, exhausting. Like living with somebody else is like a sensory nightmare for me for so many reasons. And the thought of ever like potentially returning to a long-term relationship and like potentially living with someone again just has absolutely no appeal to me at this point in time. And of course, like you can date and still have partnership without cohabitating. Of course, that's completely valid. And I applaud couples who choose that for themselves. I think it's a wonderful choice. I think it can really be a beautiful thing.
But I just, even like the long-term relationship and that commitment to somebody is basically making a promise to someone else and making a commitment to someone else that you will be taking them into account, that you will be taking their feelings and thoughts and opinions into consideration when you make life decisions. If you decide to move, if you decide to change jobs, if you decide to like really do anything, you are doing that in consultation with another person by necessity, of course. And that can actually be a really beautiful thing about relationships. But for me, I'm done. Like, I have spent a lot of time sacrificing greatly in my relationships, sacrificing where I am living, sacrificing things like being with my own family and friends, like living in a place where none of my family or friends live in order to continue partnerships. I have made decisions around my own education and career path around my relationships. Like, I've changed my career path kind of indirectly due to a relationship I was in. I have, yeah, made decisions about my schooling and my higher education around relationships. Like, it's just, it has affected so much of my life. And now, as a 36-year-old woman, I'm done. I do not want to do that anymore.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a coincidence, guys, that she's coming to this realization at the ripe old age of 36. Now it's probably a bit harder for her to get men that she finds attractive that will accommodate for her financially, so on and so forth. I think this is definitely a Western phenomenon as well. Just, it's going to be Australia, America, Canada, blah, 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 England, that are all, where the women all have this attitude. It's not going to stop the immigration levels into Western countries. We're just going to really get replaced by people who are not white. And, I'm not going to talk about on how feminism is pushed strategically into Western countries for that reason, because then I'll get associated with Moustache Man and banned. But yeah, it is a very Western ideal that fulfillment comes from living in your own isolated bubble of reality and not taking anyone else's needs into consideration. And while I think that's an apt strategy in the current culture that we live in, I don't think it's the ideal strategy. I think it's a sign that we live in an incredibly destructive culture where men and women are both brainwashed from very young ages into having dysfunctional relationships with each other. And, to the point where we can't even live with each other anymore in this society because there's too much resentment that's built up because of all of the propaganda that's been pushed, and also a lot of the behaviors that, both men and women have displayed towards each other, where you have women just manipulating men for money and then men manipulating women for sex and pretending they want relationships and then just, ghosting them. So it works both ways. And I think that the dating apps obviously have played a huge role in this. And yeah, feminism occurs at the end of every civilizational cycle. Feminism occurred at the fall of Rome, and feminism is basically an indicator that the society has reached its peak and is about to collapse because there's so much abundance that, we no longer need men doing manual labor as much and work's detached from manual labor. And all that's going to happen is Western countries will be replaced by more patriarchal societies as Indian men from India come here in massive numbers, for example, or whatever, or men from Muslim countries come here. And we're just going to get replaced. That's all that feminism will achieve, is the destruction of the culture that it spawned in.
I do not want to have to consult another person when I'm thinking about quitting my job, or when I'm thinking about moving, or when I'm thinking about buying a house. And
so judging by the title of your other video on your channel, it seems like you're still saving for your first home at the ripe old age of 36. And I won't comment on how your YouTube channel is called Kate Mostly Good with Money, because you've left a big financial decision like that to fairly late in life. And I'm sorry if you've had financial hardships, but guys aren't given any second chances when it comes to that stuff. If you're a guy in his late 30s and you don't have a mortgage or even like a deposit for your own place, then women are just going to see you as a dusty. And you know what, guys? Drizzle. We need to start having that same attitude towards women. Even if you find a woman attractive and she isn't financially responsible, if she's not strong and independent like they all claim to be. You know, a lot of the reason that women don't actually think a relationship with a man is to be taken seriously unless you live together is because they can't afford to live on their own. They're not strong and independent. And I think that by women refusing to date and by men refusing to date and forcing women to be strong and independent, the world will become a much better place, because it will show the farce of modern feminism and help it collapse under its own weight, under its own lack of logic. You know, because even if you are in a dual income, then what happens when you have kids and it's $180 per day for daycare so your wife can go work and get $160 per day for a job? It doesn't add up, guys. The whole system of feminism will crumble. It's just, you know, it's going to be fun to watch. Enjoy.
So to me, that's just not really appealing at this stage in my life. And again, I think there can be a lot of beauty in that. And for some people, it's wonderful. And making those decisions together can be so joyful. And I love that for you. I'm just realizing it's not for me. Another reason why dating has lost a lot of its luster is just the apps in general. Like, this is how you date now. And they have just become such a cesspool, truly. I have met two of my partners off of the apps. I met one on Tinder back in like 2015 though, so we're going way back. I met one on Tinder, and then I met my ex-fiance on Hinge. So I've had some luck there with meeting excellent, people, really high quality partners.
Yes, but were they in the same league of you, or were they men that were outside of your league, and that's why they didn't work in the long run? Because I know that when I've used those apps in the past, I don't get women that meet my standards or even come close for the most part. And the ones that do are usually catfish. I think something that women don't quite understand about most men, I like to think I don't fit into this category myself for the most part, is that like most men will basically placate women for years. For years. They don't even have to like the woman or find her that attractive. They just want regular sex. And so most men will just pretend, placate, and do all this self-degrading behavior, this beta simp behavior, in order to just keep getting laid consistently because they're addicted to sex, or they just really like sex. And that's something that I find that a lot of women just can't comprehend, is because they can't really even tell when guys like them or not. They think that guys are faking to like them when they actually like them, and they fall for it when the guys just pull in their legs because they want to have some sex. Like, women are really bad judgments of character when it comes to men, and that's why there's so many single mothers now. That's why like society's so fucked up, is because it's not really the high quality men of integrity that are reproducing, is it? It's Tyrone and Chad, the ones that will send the good morning beautiful text messages in the morning, those kind of beta males as well. But like, it's not the high quality men that are reproducing for the most part. Obviously some do, but yeah, look at what we've got, guys.
Great men who had a lot to offer, and I think highly of both of those people. And yeah, I met them on Tinder and Hinge, and now interacting with those apps feels like, honestly, a different planet. The way people behave is so unhinged. The complete and utter lack of interest and engagement from people on the apps is absolutely wild to me. Like,
that's fantastic. One of the best ways to guarantee a woman to stop messaging you or stop showing interest in you is to start actually showing interest in her. Women are always going on about how guys never show interest in them, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, if you actually have zero interest in a girl and she's pursuing you, she'll come at you with all she's got. The minute you turn around and reciprocate interest in her, they're gone. They're no longer interested. And women wonder why these dating apps have so many men on it that show little interest in them. It's because if they show interest in you, you no longer care. If they stop replying to you, you'll chase them and try and get them in the bed quicker so that you feel that emotional buzz.
I wasn't even particularly interested in dating or having like a serious relationship, and I would still put so much thought and effort into, sending cute messages. Like on Bumble, it's the woman who messages first. I would read people's profiles and like, come up with cute, quirky things to say and ask them a bunch of questions in my intro message.
And guys, do you think that these men were around the same level as her in the looks department? Or do you think they might have been significantly better looking? I'll let you guys ponder that. Because basically the only girls that have ever chased me in the past have been girls that are not on my level in the looks department usually. And if they are on my level in the looks department, they're usually lacking in some other area. They're poor, or they have lots of baby daddies or something like that. They're not usually on my level when it comes to looks, money, and social integrity. There's usually one of them that they drastically fall short on, and that's why you're chasing these guys that are showing little interest, is because they're probably out of your league, dear.
Like all kinds of things like that, and basically got nothing back. Like nothing back. Lots of like one-word answers. Men never really asking me anything about myself. So like after I basically had a rule where after like 2 or 3 unreciprocated messages, I just stopped and unmatched. Like if I've asked you 2 or 3 questions in a row and you haven't asked me anything back or made any effort to continue the conversation, then I'm done.
Yeah, and let's be real, guys. Like, a lot of the time, like, women will start conversations with men just so that they can deliberately ghost the men. That's really all these dating apps are now, is a competition of who ghosts who first, or who tries to belittle the other person first. And, I agree. Get off of these dating apps. They're garbage. But the thing is, we're cornered into them. Approaching women in real life is a form of harassment. If you aren't way better looking than her, then it's not harassment. Talking to women on the phone, they don't like really talking on the phone or in person as much. Women like to get to know guys over text messages, because then they can put on their own false, fake, narcissistic facade, because it's harder to detect the lies from the body language cues, from the eye contact, from the voice tonality. You don't get any of these cues from a text message or from messaging on dating apps. So women are able to manipulate men a lot more. They can pretend that they're interested. They can pretend they're this. They can pretend they're that. And it's much harder to detect lies on text messages than it is through voice or real life. And that's why women are still on these apps, and they won't get off of them until they're at the ripe old age of 36. And men are no longer paying them any attention.
And that unfortunately eliminated essentially everybody I matched with. And I had no problem getting matches. Getting matches was never the problem. It wasn't that was the problem. It was like further down the pipeline where I was like actually trying to talk to people and interact with them, and just like literally trying to carry like a basic conversation was essentially impossible. And I don't know what's going on there. I could speculate, and I think it's actually for a lot of different reasons. I think it's quite complex and nuanced why the apps have gotten the way they are.
It sounds like you have no problem getting matches. So you're probably matching with men that are out of your league, men that have dozens or hundreds of matches, and you're girl number 100 in line. Maybe he lines up 10 dates on a Saturday night, and you're the 10th date, and if they all fall through, then you're the one he goes to see. But if the others don't fall through, you just get ghosted because he's gone to the other 9 women that he had preference over you. That's what's going on. But women's ego can't handle that, so they'll fabricate all this other stuff.
I think it's a lot of things. I think it's a lot of things about modern dating culture. I think it's the pandemic. I think it's, I think there's a lot going into it. But the reasons for it aren't necessarily super important. What is important is that I was unable to really successfully have conversations with basically anybody. And the handful I did are people that I did go on dates with. And then we didn't click in person, and we didn't have chemistry or whatever.
Or maybe like 99% of women on these apps, you used an absurd amount of makeup and filters, and then the guy was shocked when he saw you in real life.
So it just felt like after a little while such a zero-sum game where the quality of people I was meeting was just like not there. Like it just wasn't. Like to meet someone who was like intelligent and could carry a conversation and seemed kind and seemed actually interested in me, no, they're not on Hinge. They're not on Bumble.
In order for a guy to be interested in a woman's personality, get this, you actually have to be interesting. Now, I don't know this woman, but based on the vast majority of women that I have dated and talked to, They have zero interest in anything outside of mainstream propaganda. Their biggest interest is watching reality TV show at night. How many conversations can you have about a stupid, phony, mundane reality TV show? And then when you start to talk about things that have a bit more intellectual depth, like conspiracy theories, or, as I like to call them, reality theories, their vocabulary, their interests, their knowledge on these subjects is vacant. Zero interest in anything philosophical, zero interest in things that actually have meaning, and so much overvalue on the superficialities of mainstream culture and all of the absurdity and wokeism that follows it. And guys have zero interest in that stuff, except to criticize it.
So that was like another reason why I just kind of like bowed out. But I think it speaks to like a broader problem in general with just like sort of the dating pool, and something that I think women in particular are feeling, and I know that I'm feeling. And another reason why I'm sort of taking this big step back is just that, women bear a disproportionate amount of the emotional labor.
There it is. Emotional labor. Love it. What the fuck does that even mean, guys? Emotional labor. Yeah, because guys, they want girls so that they can hold the girl and cry into their arms. So you're doing the emotional labor. Yeah, that's real stereotypical behavior from guys, isn't it? Emotional labor. What a cop-out. And she's just parroting this from other YouTubers she's probably listens to. Emotional labor. What a sick and twisted concept. Have you ever heard of stoicism? What about, not letting emotions get the better of you all the time? Emotional labor, what a stupid term. But if anyone's doing that in a relationship, it's men, because they have to endure the constant vacillation, the constant, I'm not sure if I like him or not, I'm not sure if this is a red flag or not, I'm just going to make up red flags in my head. Men have to deal with all of the emotional turmoil and baggage that these modern women thrust upon them. God.
Relationships, they bear a disproportionate amount of the mental load. And so I felt that a lot in my previous relationship, and I felt that in different ways in all of my relationships, to varying degrees, having to absorb a lot of the managerial role in the relationship, the organizational role in the relationship, sort of like the household manager, like all of those pieces.
The managerial role in the relationship, not paying for the bills or bearing the brunt of most of the finances. No, it's remember to turn your socks inside out when you put them in the washing machine. Nagging. They're trying to say that the emotional labor and the management roles is justification for their nagging, where all nagging is emotional abuse towards men. Constant, like a drip of water to the forehead for days until it wears a big gaping hole on your face. Thanks for that emotional labor.
And this was with men I was not married to, and we didn't have children. So the fact that this was happening when we were unmarried and child-free was, the more time went on and the older I got, the more distressing that really became when I realized how severe of a problem this was. That I was in relationships where I was doing all of the cleaning, where I was the one coordinating all the stuff and planning our trips, all of the things, and I just didn't feel seen. Not only was I
doing all of the cleaning and planning all of the trips, did it ever occur that right now I'm making this video with a sink full of dirty dishes? I'll do them later, but if there was a woman here, that would be unacceptable. You can't leave dirty dishes in the sink. OCD, always everything has to be perfect. We've got to dust the cornices today. And planning the trips, most guys don't really like traveling that much, maybe once a year or something. But this destination addiction culture, I need to go experience cultures from every country to live a fulfilling life, when you can't even afford it. You don't even own your own house. What are you doing planning vacations? Get your life together first, and who's going to be paying for that trip? Probably him. Back in 2011, I spent $8,000 on a holiday with my girlfriend at the time. She paid her way as well. And in hindsight, that was one of the dumbest decisions I've ever made, because Bitcoin was $50. $50. How many Bitcoin is that? That's like 10, 500, that's like 100. That's more than 100 Bitcoin for that holiday. Man, I'm an idiot.
You know, even with all of that begging and pleading, like it never really yielded much. And it was sort of like he's listening, but nobody's really home. Like no one's really actually absorbing the message and making the changes and really acknowledging that, you know, the way our society is built and the way our society is set up is under patriarchy, and that men benefit from that system and women are hurt by that system.
Now, patriarchy, okay. I don't know what percentage of women genuinely believe we live in a patriarchy, because I don't think women are that stupid. But to say that we live in a patriarchy in 2024 is one of the most detached from reality perspectives you can have. Like, I don't know how much more power women can actually get over men, like physically. I don't know how much more they could have. Like, what's possible from here? Like, you can kill a man's kid, you can cheat on a man that you're married to and still bleed him dry in divorce court. There's affirmative action programs so that women are hired over men. You can break up with your baby daddy and then turn your son into a girl with gender reassignment surgery out of spite, not because you think that's actually a transgender kid, just to, you know, really screw with your ex-husband's mind, your baby daddy's mind. Women can do this. You can be a woman and basically be mentally retarded. You can have a 20 IQ and then start an OnlyFans and masturbate online and then promote it on YouTube, the family-friendly platform that we know just loves to ban everyone except for the porn stars. You can just start an OnlyFans and masturbate online and get money from beta males. You know, where in the past, if we were living under a patriarchy, you would be thrown into prison for that. Like, to me, that is the most disgusting aspect of this modern society is, you know, prostitution's one thing, that's discreet. But if I had a daughter that was on OnlyFans, I would disown that bitch for life. Having an OnlyFans is unforgivable. It's disgusting. And, you know, the fact that society tolerates that in and of itself, if that was the only thing, that's proof that we don't live in a patriarchy. You can't hit a woman in self-defense, basically, but, you know, if she hits you, no one gives a crap. Women can sperm jack men. You can get a hand job from a woman. She can then run off with your seed and give it to her fat friend. And now you've little Oompa Loompa babies that you're financially responsible for. And that's not considered a crime. They can't poke holes in condoms, but they can get the condom from the trash and use it to create little bastards of their own that you will have to pay for. What metric is there to prove that we live in a patriarchy? Like, they have to be gaslighting men at this point. I don't believe that most women actually believe we live in a patriarchy. They're just saying it because it's part of the mainstream narrative that they will all conform to. And they're saying it because they think it will benefit them to get more and more rights. You can't get any more rights, women. What more do you want? Do you want, like, this is the thing. If a woman was to divorce a man and it was legal for her to castrate him in public afterwards because he didn't fulfill his marital duties, they would probably be all for it. A lot of beta males would be all for it as well, because then they would see it as, I don't have to compete with all these guys that actually have self-respect. But maybe we're heading there. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's where we'll go. Maybe we can get less patriarchal and have some rules like that come into place. That'll be great, won't it?
And men are harmed by patriarchy too in other ways. But when we're talking about just, you know, household, emotional labor, mental load, and things like that, like men benefit from this system, from a system in which they are not expected to contribute equally to their homes or to child rearing or to domestic responsibilities. Men benefit from this.
So anything to do with traditionalism that benefits men is bad, patriarchy. Yet women still manage to reap all of the benefits from traditionalism. Do you think this woman's a virgin? You know, it's expected. It's been expected through most of civilization that if you marry a woman, she's a virgin. And that's for good reason, because they become unable to pair bond after a few partners. It doesn't take that many.
Their careers benefit. They're great. Like, wouldn't we all be great if we all had wives? I mean, truly, I would be thriving. So I think unless you are with a male partner who really can recognize that the existence of that disparity in our society, that this is very socialized into all of us, that we all grew up with these examples. This is very ingrained. And unless you have a partner who is willing to really look that in the eye and perhaps admit how he has been complicit in that, you're not going to really get very far having conversations about like splitting chores, because it's so much deeper than that. And so you really need a partner who can engage in those conversations. And what I have found is that most men are not prepared to do that. And if that's the case, then I am unwilling to partner with them. And so at the end of the day, it's like, if I'm dating a man, then they are going to make my life harder, not easier. That's not something I want for myself. That's not something I want for my life. And so unfortunately, that eliminates a lot of the dating pool, because most men are not prepared to have that conversation.
Take out sex, and what benefits do men get from relationships? I can do my own bloody chores. It's not that hard. I can do the shopping. I can make dinner. Those are the easiest tasks of my day. The fact of the matter is that it doesn't matter what you do as a guy. Even if you are a man and you do all the household chores, you pay all the bills, you do everything that you're expected to, the woman's going to lose all respect and attraction for you anyway and cheat on you. It's just how they're wired. You think there's guys out there that just do all the chores, pay for everything, act like complete pushovers, and their wives still respect them and are attracted to them? The minute you comply with women's demands is the minute they leave you and tell you that you're a nice guy, but you're just not what they're looking for. But if you tell them to go do the dishes themselves, create a bit of drama, oh, they'll love that for a while, you know.
And to really like take a good look at themselves and see how perhaps they have maybe honestly been taking advantage of the labor of the women in their lives, their mothers, their sisters, their aunts, their grandmothers, girlfriends, like everyone. And I don't really trust men who won't admit to that. I know some of those men are out there, but I just think it's a very small pool. And so for that reason, I'm not really interested in trying to sift through the pool to try to find one of these men who can engage with this narrative. So all of that, yeah, I think that really covers it. In some ways, like, there's been some grief associated with this, with just kind of like deprioritizing romantic relationships in my life, but there's also been a lot of like joy and excitement. I feel so excited about my future, about being able to plan my life exactly the way I want it, that I'm going to get to live wherever I want, do whatever I want, get any pets that I want, take any trips that I want, that I can really focus on my family and my friendships and my hobbies. Like, it just is like leaving me feeling so excited for the future now, having, decentered romantic relationships for my life. I feel like it's opened up so much more for me. And so that's such a great feeling. It's really exciting. And honestly, I couldn't be happier. And again, I'm not saying that this is like a forever thing, but it's something that I'm thinking really for like the foreseeable future. Like, I do not anticipate this changing anytime soon. And so, yeah, it's super exciting. So I think I'm gonna leave it there today, but tell me in the comments if you relate to any of what I've said, if any of this lands with you, and I would love to chat about it in the comments and connect with other people, with other women who are in a similar kind of mindset as me. Like, let's talk. I want to hear all about it. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you on the next one.
So there you have it, guys. I think we're really going to miss this woman in the dating pool. I don't know if I'll be able to sleep tonight. It's tragic. No, but in all seriousness, I completely agree with a lot of women who choose not to date. I can see how messed up the dating pool is for guys. It's probably pretty messed up for women as well. I think that they still lack a lot of accountability and create most of those problems themselves, but with having delusional standards and delusions of their own self-worth. But let's look at some of the comments in this video. I thought they were quite interesting, which actually sparked me to want to make this video in the first place. So here's one. It says, "You should have picked a man when you were in your 20s, picked a good one, and stick with them as you worked on the relationship." The thing is, guys in their 20s, they don't have a whole lot of cash, They don't have a whole lot of cash. That's what they want. That's the problem, is because all the women in their 20s are out earning the dudes in their 20s. That's why they can't do this anymore. Says, females make relationships too complicated. Yes, they do. They overthink about simple matters. You also said they like to be in a relationship, but you never mentioned you worked on your relationship. That says it all. Yeah, women overthink everything in relationships, and if things are going well, that's when the most drama will come, because they can't handle perfection. It's like the Matrix. You know, in the movie The Matrix, they chose to make the delusional world, imperfect, because they were saying that the human mind cannot handle perfection. It doesn't believe it. So even if women were to meet a guy that's perfect, their brains simply wouldn't be able to handle it. They would create problems just to make themselves feel more comfortable, because they're used to being in that emotional state rather than being content. I told my wife I'm no longer dating. Also, she supports my decision. Okay, well, I mean, that's it today, guys. I mean, a lot of women, they only want to date guys that have multiple girlfriends, and they'll consider you a beta male if you don't cheat. Here's another one that says, I am 34 and agree 100% with every point here. I stopped dating about 6 months ago. Now that women can inherit own property, have bank accounts and credit cards and jobs, what does a man offer that I can't achieve on my own? Female friendships have always been more fulfilling without having to take on the additional domestic and emotional labor I have found romantic relationships to require. Coincidentally, she's 34 years old, coming to that conclusion, so that's fantastic. So that's how she sees men, as property, bank accounts, credit cards, working a job. That's how she sees a man. So if that's how you see men, then it's good that you are not dating. Occasionally I daydream about having a husband and then kids in a few years, but then I think about dating and the risk just isn't really worth the reward. Lol, I'm fine, smiley face. I think I really just want the dual income sometimes. And, you know, I got to appreciate the honesty there. That is a huge that is basically the only reason that a lot of women seek relationships with men, is to boost themselves financially. If men were to hold the fort and force women to be strong and independent, we'll see feminism collapse very quickly. It's all it takes. All that men have to do to destroy feminism once and for all is to stop providing for women in their personal lives. Society wouldn't be able to function. I don't think people understand that. I only date rich women that are 6 foot, not wide, a 6-pack of beer, 6-figure salary, preferably 7, and can take 6 inches 3 twice. Have a house with maid, a few sports cars, no kids, and listens to my problems. I love it. Drizzle, 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 drizzle. That's right, homie. If it's a group of Italians, it's the mob. If it's a group of blacks, it's a gang. And if it's a group of Jews, it's a coincidence, and you're not supposed to talk about it. Dave Chappelle. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but fantastic. As a group of white people, it's white supremacy. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I thought I forgot to record that, but luckily I was still recording. Cool. All right, enjoy that video. Enjoy the next ones. Probably be banned soon. See you later. Peace. Oh, and donate. In my description, there's some links to my crypto wallet addresses if you want to donate. Also recommend buying some privacy coin before the government starts taxing unrealized gains on Bitcoin. So see you later. Bye.